A faint rustle of water, the distant cry of a seagull, and the masts of ships gleaming in the warm sun. Here, we'll dive into the stories time has preserved, where every breath will carry you to the waves of the ancient world. If you love to feel the stories, the kind that make you close your eyes as you listen, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy my work. And yes, in the comments, write down your city and the current time there. I want to see which corner of the world you're connecting from right now. Let's get started. You are standing on the edge of a tranquil Mediterranean harbor. The air reaches you, carrying the scent of salt and sun-baked stones. Along the shore, rows of clay jars, hundreds of amphorae, stand in silent formation, as if breathing with the rhythm of the waves. Sailors move like ghosts. Wooden carts creak and ropes strain, disappearing into the bellies of the ships. This isn't just trade. It's a story of risk and daring. Sending wine across the sea in these jars, which could break with a mere sneeze from the gods. Is that madness or greatness? Perhaps both. A sun-scorched sailor looks your way with a dry smile, as if he knows you're hooked. The sounds of the harbor fade, and you find yourself in an ancient workshop of fire and clay. The potter's fingers lift, press, and twist the wet earth, his wheel humming like a heartbeat. You watch as it takes shape, the slender neck, the broad shoulders, the pointed base. The first amphora is born. He doesn't know that his creation will one day carry the vital fluids of empires. Wine to the Greek islands, olive oil to Egypt, fish sauce to Rome. But the question is, was this innovation born out of necessity or accident? And if it was an accident, was it a deliberate one? At the end of the night, the first amphora, now cool, gleams in the flickering light. Simple, uneven, rough, and yet. You think, what truly holds civilization together isn't marble or bronze, but clay, mined from the earth and transported across the oceans. You've left the harbor behind. Now you sit, leaning near the riverbank, where the magic begins. The clay. At first glance, it's just wet earth, sticky on your fingers, soft and yielding. But you know that this is the seed, the very spot where the amphora's soul is born. This is a story older than civilization itself, shaping life through the harmony of dust, water, and fire. Imagine the first human who looked at a muddy puddle and thought, can I shape this? Can it become more than just mud? Perhaps it was a child playing by the river, or a farmer who needed a means to preserve his grain. In that moment, humanity transformed the earth into a vessel and fire into power, where history is born by hand. You watch a potter's apprentice digging the river clay with a small wooden stick, cold, viscous, and fragrant with minerals. This is the life-giving material, the soul of every jar, every cup, every amphora. They return to this spot again and again, like the coming and going of the tide. They knead the clay, soak it in water, sometimes mixing in powdered seashell to strengthen the pots. But the clay is different every time, changing with the season, the river, and its age. Some say the best clay came from the banks of the Nile. Others swore by the Rhone Valley. Perhaps ancient potters competed not just in shape, but in the very quality of their earth. And the question arises, did the difference in clay alter the taste of the wine? Did the soil of different valleys shape the fragrance of their respective empires? When the clay spins, time stops. The potter now centers the wet clay on the spinning wheel, a brilliant invention of human ingenuity. The wheel turns in a hypnotic rhythm. His hands are steady, coordinated, gentle as air, yet firm. The clay rises at his touch, forming a slender neck, a broad belly, a pointed base. You see the handles emerge like arms, ready to bear stories. They aren't just for gripping. They are symbols of identity. Every contour, every curve, a signature of the potter's land. But as it takes shape, the risk intensifies. If the sun becomes too hot or the air turns too cold, months of labor can instantly crack. The potter paces anxiously, checking the sun's direction with a stone-like silence. In that hour, the suspense is as potent as the world he has created, now hardening in the fire. The magic of the ordeal by fire. Amidst the burning wood in the kiln, every potter knows. Now, not only skill, but fortune must prevail. If the fire is unbalanced, the entire batch will turn to ash. If all goes well, the clay will emerge stronger than stone, yet light enough to breathe. This is the real magic, the immortality of the earth. Some potters applied special clay slips to smooth the surface. Others used firing techniques to turn the clay red or black, which later gave rise to the famous Greek arts of black figure and red figure amphorae. Every jar, every shape, every line held a story of gods, of love, or of war. And even the ordinary commercial jars spoke their own language, leaving their mark with a symbol or number. The geometry of clay, the secret of civilization. You touch a replica, a pointed base, a wide belly, a slender neck. This design is no accident. It is maritime geometry, built to fit hundreds of jars tightly inside ships, designed to be stood up by sinking the base in sand or secured on a wooden stand. It is as beautiful as it is practical, and as modern. The question rises in your mind, did the vessel determine the form of the wine, or did the wine give birth to the vessel? Some say it was made for wine. Others say it was the shared vision of potters and winemakers, the soft murmur of gentle waves, the rhythm of the sea in the distance. And in your hands, an amphora, cool and rough, shaped from ancient earth. You slowly turn it around, feeling its texture, its balance, its story. It's not just a vessel. It's a revolution of design, of engineering, of trade. Every curve, every scratch, every line of the amphora seems etched in the language of an ancient secret. Its smooth roundness, the two rugged handles, the long neck, the pointed base, every detail built with purpose. It's not just beauty, it's intelligence molded into form. When your fingers brush its surface, it feels as if you're touching the heartbeat of a civilization, one that defined commerce, travel, and culture. The mathematics of the sea. At first glance, the pointed base seems impractical, as if the vessel could never stand upright. But therein lies its hidden brilliance. That very point allowed the amphora to fit perfectly into the belly of a ship, packed tightly into wooden racks, interlocked and unmoving, even as the waves rocked the vessel. And when ships reached the shore, they were half buried in sand or soil to stand upright. What seems odd to us today was once the height of practicality and precision. In that shape lived the rhythm of the sea, a union of the artisan's wisdom and the merchant's daring. Handles, more than just a grip. You look at the two worn handles. They're like the artist's signature. Each handle wasn't just for holding. It was for lifting and linking. Sometimes ropes passed through them, allowing multiple amphorae to be hoisted together, as if a flock of clay vessels were taking flight. Now, imagine the scene. A bustling Roman port. Ships ready to sail, sailors shouting, ropes tightening, and the potter's craft about to flow into the veins of commerce. Every handle wasn't just a mark of strength, but of identity. Greek handles were different, Roman ones distinct. Every shape spoke its own language, the dialect of its homeland. The neck and the seal. That long, slender neck. It wasn't for show. Every inch was deliberate, narrow enough to prevent wine or oil from spilling, to keep moisture from escaping. And then came the seal, a mix of resin, wax, and clay. It wasn't merely a closure, it was the art of stopping time. Imagine the scent inside, grapes aging in silence, mingled with the sweet sharpness of pine resin, a fragrance now lost to history. But back then, it was the scent of immortality. Some historians say that mixture matured the wine itself. Could it be that the very clay shaped its flavor? Did the amphora breathe? Did the wine live until the seal was broken? We may never know. But perhaps that's the beauty of it. Some mysteries are never meant to be solved. The language of clay, signatures of civilization. You notice, no two amphorae are the same. Greek amphorae were slender, often painted with exquisite art. Images of gods, battles, festivals, not mere decoration, but messages. Each one said, "This is ours. This is our wine. This is our story." Roman amphorae, on the other hand, were practical. No embellishment, only precision. Thick marks, tax stamps, and cargo contents etched into the clay. Where Greece added emotion, Rome added order. And that's what defined civilizations. One adorned the clay with feeling, the other with logic. You lift the amphora again. It feels cold, yet somehow, as if something inside still breathes. You understand now. It was never just a vessel. It was a sailor's dream, a merchant's hope, a potter's soul. You place it down gently. And you think, in a world now sealed in metal and glass, there was once a time when clay held everything together. Back then, and perhaps even now, the true strength of civilization didn't lie in iron, but in earth. You turn your gaze and suddenly find yourself standing in the echoing world of the Bronze Age, Mycenae. The sun is merciless, its heat dancing on the stones, and the palace walls cast long, stretching shadows. The air is thick with the scent of metal, dust, and history. Before you, among golden treasures and marble carvings, stand rows of clay vessels, amphorae, alike in form, upright, yet strangely alive. These are not mere containers. They hold the very lifeblood that sustains civilization. Wine, sealed with a thin layer of resin, so that even time could not touch it. Within these jars flowed not only drink, but promises, bargains, and political alliances. The golden market. Imagine, you are a merchant, standing on your wooden ship between the islands of the Aegean Sea. Each shore is new. Each harbor sings with a different voice. Some trade in spices. Others make their living from the wine sealed within these earthen jars. The craftsmen of Mycenae made amphorae with such precision that they became more than tools. They became symbols. Every mark, pattern, and seal etched onto a jar tells a story. Where it was made, whose hands shaped it, and which ship carried it across the waves. These symbols were like passports, clay documents declaring in whose name this nectar set sail. Wine, the symbol of power. Wine here was more than a drink. It was a symbol of power. That sip, raised in golden goblets within palace halls, often sealed alliances before war. You can almost hear the merchants whisper, "This batch is honey sweet. That one is mixed with healing herbs, reserved only for the royal family." Each amphora held not just liquid, but a secret, a recipe, a deal, a fragment of culture itself. The magic of resin. You watch a merchant carefully heating sticky pine resin. He pours it gently inside the jar, as if sealing time itself. This resin was more than a preservative. It was flavor, identity, and protection all in one. A single mistake could ruin a fortune. 1,000 coins worth of wine could spoil overnight, and a merchant could be ruined. The sea routes were perilous. Ships could sink. Cargo could rot. Every voyage carried suspense. Would this amphora survive the journey? The scent of resin was so strong that even today, when archaeologists lift the neck of a broken amphora, it still carries the breath of the forest, as if the ancient woods are still alive within it. The living trade. This was not just commerce. It was a sacred ritual. Every farmer, sailor, and potter was a part of this vast network. Some poured their labor into the clay, others their hope into the grapes. When new shipments arrived at the harbors, celebrations followed. The voyage was as dangerous as it was holy. Each amphora was a blessing, a union of earth's womb and human ingenuity. Design and destiny. You notice Some amphorae are tall and slender, others wide and stout. It wasn't just for appearance, it was by necessity. The long jars fit tightly in a ship's narrow hold, while the heavy ones stayed grounded on land. Scholars still debate, were these designs practical innovations or a new aesthetic language? Perhaps both. Each shape reveals the spirit of its era, a time when art and utility were reflections of each other. Messengers across the sea. Close your eyes for a moment. The winds howl. The ship battles the waves. In its belly, hundreds of amphorae lie secured, each carrying the scent of another land. These weren't mere goods. They were messages, fragments of earth speaking to one another across the sea. Every sip traced a journey, from soil to ocean to soul. Wine was not just intoxication. It was a story of taste, of culture, of that invisible bond between humankind and clay. The final secret. You gently touch the neck of an ancient amphora. Its surface is cool, yet the feeling is warm, as if it still holds a hidden energy, a silent testimony of ages past. Perhaps this is the same aroma once poured at a king's celebration, now just a secret whisper buried in the sand. You realize the true story of civilization isn't hidden in glass or stone. It breathes within these clay jars, where even time has been preserved. As your footsteps touch the sun-soaked rolling hills of ancient Greece, you realize you've entered another world. Vineyards stretch far into the horizon, like rippling emerald lakes. The air is thick with the sweet scent of ripe grapes, mingling with the salty breeze of the Aegean Sea. But today, amidst this peaceful-looking scene, there's something more, something only the observant can feel. You walk slowly between the vines. The workers' hands move with such precision as if each grape hides a secret treasure. Here, wine is not just a drink. It's identity, tradition, and a symbol of power. Nearby, merchants and vineyard owners speak in low but sharp tones, discussing the quality of this year's harvest, which island will produce the true nectar of the gods, and whose fragrant wine will command the highest bid in the markets of Athens. Every word carries pride, but also an unspoken fear. What if the harvest falls short this year? As you move further, you see that every island takes pride in its own flavor. Samos, with its sweet muscat wine. Lesbos, with its golden nectar. Rhodes, with its tangy vintage. People stamp or paint emblems on their amphorae, as if to declare, this is the gift of our soil. It's no ordinary drink. But this rivalry isn't gentle. It's a battle of pride, and there's no room for the defeated. In small villages, people worship the god Dionysus, dancing, singing, and pouring wine into great clay amphorae as offerings, as if building a bridge between earth and sky. But when night falls, strange whispers rise from the shadows behind these celebrations, whose harvest was stolen, whose grapes drowned in floodwater, and who crept into a neighbor's vineyard under the cover of darkness. Ancient Greece, glorious, yet full of contradictions. In the city marketplace, you see potters and winemakers sitting side by side. Together, they decide how wide the amphora's neck should be, how long the clay should be fired. Too soft, and the wine will leak. Too hard, and the wine will lose its life, unable to breathe. This is not just pottery. It's a secret science known to only a few. Then, your eyes fall on a merchant, his face calm, but his eyes sharp. He arranges his amphorae with precision, each marked with a date, place, and seal. This is not mere trade. It's a web woven of money, reputation, and sometimes politics. You realize how these clay vessels silently witness 1,000 untold stories. When they arrive in Athens, Corinth, or a distant foreign port, they carry not just wine, but power, deceit, trust, and at times, conspiracy. And then you discover something surprising. On some islands, amphorae bear official state stamps, guaranteeing that the wine inside is genuine and the taxes are paid. Imagine, that was a quality certification system from over 2,000 years ago. But not every bottle tells the truth. Some merchants mix sour or old grapes with sweet-smelling herbs, so the buyer is enchanted by the aroma and never learns the truth. And so the question remains: the wine poured before you in those ancient clay jars, is it a blessing of the gods or a carefully crafted deception? As the first light of dawn peeks over the horizon, the air fills with the scent of salt and wooden ships. You're standing at a bustling port of ancient Greece, where every breath seems to echo with the heartbeat of history. All around you is movement and noise, the clanking of chains, the creak of pulleys, and the heavy breaths of weary laborers. Wooden crates, baskets, and thousands of clay amphorae move back and forth. These are not just containers, but the pulse of the Mediterranean itself. Inside these tall, narrow-necked, sharp-bottomed vessels lies more than wine. Its identity, prestige, and trust beyond question. Each amphora bears a carved mark, a craftsman's name, a merchant's seal, or a tax stamp, like a secret language etched in clay. You notice a worker pointing at one of the seals, muttering something. Is it a symbol of a famous island? Or perhaps the ticket of a ship that cannot sail without it? And if that seal is missing, then what? Only a cold silence answers, carrying the faint breath of betrayal. Even in this chaos, there's remarkable order. The scratching of quills on parchment, scribes counting and recording, the entire worth of a ship resting on meticulous numbers. In the distance, captains chart their routes to the golden shores of Egypt, the grand harbors of Rome, the chilly coasts of Gaul. You imagine how this wine, olive oil, grain, and sometimes fish sauce will soon become part of lives thousands of miles away. But the voyage offers no guarantees. The fury of the sea, waves rising like towering walls, grabbing ships and smashing them onto jagged rocks. Beneath the waters lie shattered amphorae, now treasures for divers, fragments of forgotten chapters in ancient trade. On closer look, you realize not every amphora is the same. For wine, thick walls and smooth interiors preserve the flavor. For oil, a coating of resin inside keeps it fresh for months. Every shape, every texture teaches an unspoken lesson. The vessel defines the value of what it carries. Dock workers break their fatigue with sea shanties and laughter. One jokes, "Hope the captain doesn't drink half the cargo on the way." Yet beneath that laughter drifts a whisper, "Don't touch that ship. Its amphorae are cursed." This web of stories and superstitions trembles on the edge of reality and myth. As the sails swell with wind and the ship drifts away from shore, you realize these vessels, silent and still as they seem, carry within them countless lives, hopes, and secrets. The marks and shapes carved on their surfaces form a language known only to merchants and potters, a code that tells where each amphora was born, whose hands shaped it, and what fate awaits it across the sea. And then, your eyes fall upon the agora, the ancient marketplace where these amphorae, after long sea journeys, finally arrive. They stand proudly on wooden racks, displaying their seals before the buyers, some genuine, some forged, both part of the same game of wit and deception. Government officials inspect the stamps, levy taxes, record weights, and measures. It's as if the entire system of modern logistics and quality control was born right here 2,000 years ago. Yet one question still lingers. How many of these vessels truly hold the blessing of the gods? Golden afternoon sunlight spills across the agora of ancient Athens, the beating heart of the city, where trade, politics, and everyday talk flow together as one. Hundreds of voices blend in the air, creating the living murmur of a human river. The calls of street vendors, the bargains of merchants, the arguments of philosophers, and among them, standing silently, are the clay amphorae, dust-covered, history-laden. They are not just vessels. They are guardians of time, holding within them one of the world's most powerful forces, wine. But here, wine is more than a drink. It's a symbol of power. In politics, it's as essential as it is in feasts. At the center of the market, you see politicians and philosophers sipping from wooden kylixes, while nearby amphorae stand ready to pour more fuel into any debate. Here, a single sip can turn a conversation into friendship or rivalry. Listen closely. Whispers ripple through the corners, deals struck in the name of wine, bribes hidden behind cups, and promises swallowed with every gulp. The seals on the amphorae bear witness to this dance of deceit and trust. A seal means authenticity. Without it, perhaps deception. During festivals, these vessels take on new life. Imagine Dionysia, the grand celebration of religion, theater, and wine. Actors and priests, performers and spectators, all passing around amphorae filled with offerings to the gods. Some amphorae themselves are masterpieces, painted with scenes of myths, tragedies, and biting comedies. They are not mere containers. They are mirrors of society, reflecting Greek fears, hopes, and dreams. But their role extends far beyond the marketplace or temple. They are also weapons of diplomacy. Gifted to foreign envoys, the sealed amphorae of wine carry not just drink, but a message. We are allies. Sometimes the seal bears the name of an island, sometimes the mark of the maker. A silent language more powerful than politics itself, because it isn't spoken. It's shared and tasted. Now your steps take you to the quieter edge of the agora, less crowded, but more significant. Behind the scenes, you glimpse Athens' hidden machinery, regulation. Every amphora registered, every seal recorded under state supervision. Even taxes are marked on the necks of these clay vessels. This is the pride of democracy. No deal unregulated, no wine uncertified. 2,000 years ago, they were already practicing quality control, authenticity, and consumer protection in perfect harmony. And then, amid the crowd, your eyes catch on a single amphora, set apart. No seal, no name. Only a deep, dark crack running down its side. No one dares to touch it. Why? Does it hold something people wish to forget? Or a truth no one dares to speak? Spread out before you lies the great Rome, the capital of power and splendor. A city that never sleeps, where even the dust on the streets carries the scent of history. Along the banks of the Tiber River, the bustling warehouses hum with activity. The rippling waves seem to pulse with the heartbeat of the empire. Everywhere you look, towering clay amphorae stand like silent sentinels. Inside them lie Rome's needs, its pride, and its secrets. Olive oil, garum sauce, and above all, wine. This is the nectar that stirs courage in soldiers' blood, brings laughter to citizens' tables, and melts deals on the tongues of politicians. Rome didn't just adopt the amphora. It transformed it into an engineering marvel of empire. Each vessel, identical in shape and size, sealed at the neck with a lead stamp, proof of its quality, its tax, its origin. A soldier's ration, a feast's flavor. Everything depends on those seals. Far from the city, in a military camp, you arrive amid the clang of iron armor, the squeal of chariots, and the sound of hundreds of amphorae being unsealed. Officers argue, greater than good wine lifts the spirit of the troops. Bad wine can break the soul of an entire legion. To them, amphorae are no less than weapons. Every line of battle, every road to victory, flows through these earthen vessels. Yet the real story of Rome lies in the heart of the city. Grand banquets, torchlight flickering on marble walls, and in the center, amphorae brimming with sweet Falernian wine, the favorite of both senators and emperors. But this luxury is not for all. The poor and enslaved drink the harsh, sour dregs, wine more like vinegar. Even in drunkenness, class never blurs. In the world of merchants, trade is a game of taste, gold, and deception. Some amphora brands are so famous that people recognize them at a glance, greater than, this is real Roman wine. A mark of trust, or perhaps a clever illusion. Then, your eyes catch something curious. Small amphorae, delicate and ornamental, like jewelry. Some bear names, others the symbols of gods, as if they hold not wine, but faith itself. Scholars still debate, were these vessels meant for single use, or were they refilled after every voyage? Their life cycle remains a mystery. Their buried fragments still whisper for answers. Rome's trade network stretched across the world, from the vineyards of Gaul, the golden oils of Spain, to Egypt's ports and the markets of the Levant. Ships battled waves, storms, and pirates, so that Rome's goblets would never run dry. But not every journey was blessed. Many ships sank to the ocean floor. Thousands of amphorae still sleep in blue darkness, silent, yet murmuring their stories. Back in the city streets, chaos fills the marketplace. Some sell adulterated wine, others expose forged seals. Buyers sniff the wax, weigh the clay, test the aroma. Every Roman is now an expert, because a mistake means betrayal and the loss of honor. But behind all these truths hides the dark underside of Roman luxury. For every banquet that echoes with laughter, somewhere a laborer lifts a broken amphora. The wine spills, the clay shatters. Yet the trade never stops. Every vessel carries a story, not of flavor, but of survival. And now, the sun has set. Across the Tiber, torches shimmer on the rippling water, and the amphorae glisten in their glow. They stand silent, yet warm within, as if still alive. Every vessel, a journey. Every seal, a promise. And in every breath of wine drifts the eternal secret of a civilization, born of clay, and immortal, like the wine itself. Before you spreads the Mediterranean Sea, an endless blue canvas, where the sun scatters specks of gold across the waves. But beneath that surface beauty lies a dark truth. Below, in the deep water, rests a silent graveyard. Shards of broken clay, amphorae, scattered everywhere. Each fragment is an unfinished story, a journey that never reached its shore. You close your eyes and imagine, centuries ago, merchants sailing these same seas, their ships heavy with trade. The waves could be friends one moment, and enemies the next. Storms rose without warning, and pirates hid in secret coves. Whenever a ship went down, hundreds of amphorae slipped into the depths. Wine, olive oil, garum sauce, all swallowed by the sea. With time, these broken vessels sank into the sand, holding on to their scents and stories. You dive deeper. Some amphorae still release the faint aroma of resin, echoes of ancient pine forests. Here, every shard is a time capsule, revealing which ports were connected and which merchants traded across distant kingdoms. This field is known as amphorology, the science of reconstructing history from broken clay. You notice how the vessels differ from region to region. In the eastern Mediterranean, amphorae were round-bodied with wide mouths. The Greeks, however, favored long, slender ones with pointed bases. Even when badly damaged, every design still bears the fingerprints of its civilization. In many shipwrecks, amphorae are found carefully arranged, packed in precise patterns to fit more cargo and prevent breakage. It wasn't just packing, it was an art form. Yet even such order often fell apart before the sea's cruelty. Some wrecks hold amphorae with mismatched seals, hinting at smuggling and black market trade, the old game of mixing goods, dodging taxes, deceiving buyers. Today, modern divers, using sonar and underwater cameras, search for these treasures. Each fragment is lifted with care, as though solving an ancient puzzle. Sometimes, the pieces come together again, and a whole amphora takes shape, as if the sea itself were returning what it had borrowed for millennia. These vessels prove that the ancients understood containerized trade. Only their containers were made of clay. Yet one truth remains haunting. How could something so fragile become the backbone of a vast maritime economy? It's estimated that 20 to 30% of all amphorae never reached their destination. Still, ships kept sailing. because the Mediterranean's thirst was never quenched. You begin to read the map of time through these remnants. The presence of certain amphorae reveals which port dominated which era. Rhodian amphorae mark the eastern coasts, proof of their naval power. North African jars spread westward into Europe, signs of shifting trade routes and rising cities. Every now and then, divers uncover sealed amphorae that still hold drops of wine, traces of resin, and molecular hints of fragrance. From them, scientists recreate the lost flavors of the ancient world. Gradually, you realize these vessels are bridges between land and sea, human skill and nature's force. They were durable, but not immortal. Every voyage was a gamble, against waves, winds, and greed. Imagine a sailor, entrusting his livelihood to these fragile jars. Did he pray before the journey began? Did he whisper, "O gods, deliver my cargo safely"? Many amphorae never answered those prayers. As sunlight filters down through the water like golden threads, the broken vessels seem to murmur. We carried more than wine. We carried hopes, fears, and the very soul of civilization. Scattered across the seabed, these fragments still whisper the same tale of a network that survives beyond time and tide, still alive beneath the blue silence of the Mediterranean. You step into a Mediterranean tavern where gossip, the rhythm of music, and the aroma of wine swirl together in the air. All around you, conquerors and laborers, politicians and soldiers share the same roof, though their stories and their drinks are far from the same. Here, a potter's clay amphora is not just a vessel for intoxicating drink, it's a mirror of society. You sip from an imagined glass of wine, one that a king might savor, yet for a common soldier might taste thin and bitter. Falernian, the queen of golden amphorae, the emperor's favorite sweetness, dissolves in your imagined cup. Meanwhile, the cheap, diluted wine refreshes a weary soldier, carrying with it the taste of his long-forgotten tales. The story of class and the amphora. You watch politicians drinking Falernian wine, reclining on luxurious couches, their cups overflowing with laughter and celebration. The symbols carved on their amphorae tell of privilege, pride, and prosperity. But beyond these refined circles lies another world, the one of toiling soldiers and laborers who live on harsh, vinegar-like wine. Their amphorae are plain, unmarked, yet their stories, if you listen closely, are deeper and more meaningful than any aristocrat's toast. The link between mystery and celebration. An amphora is not merely a drinking vessel. It is, at times, a tool of politics and culture. Sometimes, they are smashed during festivals to drive away evil spirits. Other times, they serve as measures in markets or are shattered in acts of protest. One day, you find yourself amid a festival where wine flows freely from amphorae, binding all classes together in a single celebration. An unknown revelry rises, where the walls between officials and commoners blur into laughter. Here, the amphora becomes a symbol of elegance and indulgence, yet also of simplicity and resilience. Commerce and political meaning. You imagine how these clay vessels carried imported wines from distant lands, their seals marking trade and prosperity. But sometimes, a shortage of amphorae spoke of unrest or rebellion brewing within the empire. In the soldiers' rations, amphorae held direct political significance. They represented power, control, and endurance far more than one might think. The revelation of taste and experimentation. Residues found inside ancient amphorae reveal that wine was often mixed with seawater, herbs, and spices. This spirit of experimentation not only enriched the palate of civilization, but also reflected a revolutionary mindset. Can you imagine? The Romans' idea of wine resembled today's blended or infused wines. For them, wine wasn't just a drink. It was a cultural experiment. Final scene. The pulse of the tavern. Night spreads its shadow, and under the glowing waves of candlelight, you hold your cup. feeling the hum of old stories, the chatter of officials, and the songs of soldiers. You look at the clay amphora, not merely as a jar of wine, but as a vessel of life's stories, of class and rebellion, of celebration and politics. It carries you into the flow of history, a current that has moved for centuries, linking every color of life, every class of humanity, into one shared truth, the common soul that survives through wine, clay, and time. You hold a broken fragment of an ancient amphora in your hand. It's not just a piece of clay. It's a secret, centuries old. The seals carved into its surface seem to call out to you, inviting you to uncover a story filled with economic webs, deceit, and echoes of ancient brand wars. The language of seals, the old signs of trade. You look closer at those old markings. They're not mere decorations. They're symbols of authenticity and quality. Each seal carries the mark of a potter, merchant, tax officer, or ship owner, forming a public system that protected against counterfeit goods. You can almost imagine inspectors at ancient harbors carefully examining these seals and weights, ensuring no fraud slipped through. It was, perhaps, the world's first system of intellectual property protection in commerce. Deception and the hidden game. But not every mark was genuine. You hear whispers, tales of forgers imitating popular brands to make quick profits. A shadow world of black markets, deceit, and broken trust. Merchants would go to any lengths to protect their authenticity, and this fragment in your hand is one of those unsolved puzzles. Hidden and altered marks. You notice the layered surface. Some seals repeated, others overwritten or scorched. These traces reveal the changing identities of trade and reuse. It's a vivid snapshot of ancient recycling and the fluctuating fortunes of markets. The strategy of unveiling. Truth. Then an astonishing fact strikes you. Some amphorae were deliberately broken to reveal the hidden marks beneath. It was like peeling back old layers to expose the true story within. This dual act of display and concealment mirrors the complex, mistrustful nature of ancient commerce. The war of branding and the game of the market. You realize that trade itself revolved around these seals. Amphorae from trusted workshops fetched full prices, while suspicious marks could kill a deal instantly. This was the dawn of branding, shaping demand, value, and reputation. The pride of artisans and the power of empire potters were not mere laborers. They were craftsmen, and their seals were emblems of their identity. These marks not only enhanced their prestige, but also became integral to the imperial revenue system. Authentic or fake, these tiny symbols were among the most powerful tools of economic stability and political control in the empire. Epilogue. The silent saga of history. As you set the fragment down, you realize it holds far more than earth and clay. It carries stories of trust and deceit, competition and power. These marks remind us that the struggle for trade and reputation is one of humanity's oldest tales. And the amphora. It was not merely a vessel for wine, but a ship carrying the flowing essence of history itself. Your eyes open, and you find yourself inside a grand convivium, a royal banquet of the Roman Empire. All around, bronze lamps flicker, and the air is thick with the intoxicating blend of spices, roasted meat, and grape wine. But this isn't just a feast. It's a game of power, an arena of secret messages and hidden motives. Music swells, laughter flows, and at the center of it all, every gaze is drawn to one thing, the amphorae. Those large, beautiful clay vessels aren't just containers for wine. They are the true heroes of the night, capable of changing destinies. Wine or weapon, slaves move silently, pouring rich wine into delicate kylix cups. A faint smile here, a sharp glance there. Each time the wine flows, a new deal is sealed. An old grudge dissolves into sweetness, or deepens into something darker. Here, wine isn't drunk to quench thirst. It's consumed as a crown of power. To open an amphora is to send a message. Greater than I am generous, I am wealthy. I know how to play the game. A secret in every sip. You notice the ratio of wine to water in a guest's cup reveals the host's opinion of them. Those with rich dark wine sit close to power. Those whose cups are thin, pale, and watery, their fates may already be sealed. From the corners come whispers. Behind closed doors, old and fragile amphorae are being unsealed. Inside lies forbidden wine, rare and dangerous. Deals are struck there, betrayals take root, and no one ever knows. Stories, hidden in clay. The banquet ends. Broken shards of amphorae litter the floor, some shattered as offerings to the gods, others in anger. Within those fragments are trapped the hunger, ambition, and fleeting pleasure of humankind, followed by the emptiness left behind. You see it now. This isn't just an evening scene. These amphorae have traveled across seas, carried by winds and waves, guarded by armies. Every time one is opened, it releases the stories of the hands that shaped it, the ones who carried it, and the ones who drank from it. The final moment. The music has stopped. The last cup stands empty. The guests are gone. Only you remain, and the silent amphorae. Will they be filled with nectar next time, or poison? And then, the door creaks shut. You realize the story of this night isn't over. The real game has only just begun. Buried in the silence of clay, the fall of an empire. You step into a world where the air feels heavy with silence, and the dust beneath your feet is the ash of a once glorious past, the empire once called Rome. This was the same empire that sent vast clay amphorae sailing across the Mediterranean, liquid messengers carrying tokens of friendship and power. But now, the streets are nothing but ruins. The docks stand abandoned, their wooden ships decaying into fragments, and scattered everywhere lie the broken remains of once magnificent amphorae, forgotten memories carved in clay. The collapse of power. Your gaze falls on a deserted harbor. Where ships once bustled with trade, only empty winds and frayed ropes now sway in the quiet. When the great empire fell, the potter's kilns went cold. The craftsman's hands froze mid-motion, and the proud hum of production dissolved into a chilling silence. The changing fate of the amphorae. Some amphorae were left behind, to rot in cracked warehouses. Some found new life in small villages, used to store grain, water, or salt. And some were sealed forever in tombs beside the dead, never meant to be opened again. Each broken shard holds the echo of an age of power, splintered and silent. Peril, the sea, and lost paths. No patrols roam the sea now. Pirates and raiders stalk the open waters. Merchant ships, once proudly filled with amphorae, now lie buried in the ocean's depths, reduced to wrecks. When archaeologists peer inside these sunken vessels, they find the evidence of decline, cracked clay jars, half-burned seals, the quiet testimony of collapse. Surviving in fragments. And yet, amid this darkness, a faint light endures. New kinds of amphorae begin to appear. Smaller, simpler, local. They no longer travel hundreds of miles, but in nearby markets, along safer paths, the pulse of trade still beats. Despite scarce resources, artisans strive to preserve their heritage, to keep the ancient bond of clay, fire, and liquid alive. The strength, hidden in silence. You stop at an excavation site. Layers of earth slowly reveal stories of invasion, rebuilding, and adaptation. Some amphorae bear no seal at all. Others show only rough markings. These do not merely show economic decline. They reveal a shift in trust, from distant empires to nearby hands. The silence of these clay vessels plants a question deep in your mind. Was this fall truly sudden, or was it a slow death, one no one could stop? The final scene. As you walk deeper into the ruins, your fingers graze the edge of a broken amphora. In that cool clay rests the weight of centuries, the rise and fall of empires, the web of trade, and countless untold stories. A gust of wind passes behind you, as if someone or something still watches. And in that moment, you realize history never truly ends. It merely grows silent just before the next story begins. Before you lies the twilight of an empire, the Byzantine Empire, where the last rays of the sun fall softly on clay furnaces and thin trails of smoke drift through the air, whispering of an ending near. You stand in what was once a vibrant potter's market, where once the flames of the kilns roared up to the sky. They now flicker weakly amid cracked furnaces. The artisans' hands are weary, their eyes clouded with worry. Raw clay is running short, power is fading, and the old trade routes are bending toward new worlds. Tradition versus change. The amphorae being made here are no longer what they once were during the Roman Golden Age. The fine artistry has faded. The shapes are simpler, the decorations fewer. These vessels are no longer destined for imperial palaces, but for the modest stalls of everyday trade. You feel it. Every new design is a compromise, caught between the weight of tradition and the demands of time. Shrinking routes and shifting techniques. Before your eyes, the old trade roads have withered. Amphorae no longer sail across vast empires. They travel only to nearby ports, sustaining a humble but surviving commerce. On ships, wooden barrels and leather pouches have begun to take their place, stronger, better suited for long journeys. And yet, in local markets and sacred ceremonies, the amphora's name still holds reverence, for it is more than a vessel. It is the scent of history itself. The crumbling notes of clay. You hear the soft sound of broken amphora shards falling in the potter's courtyards. In an age ruled by metal and leather, clay seems to be fighting a losing battle. The craftsmen lower their kiln temperatures, mix clays of different colors, struggling to create something functional with what little remains. The changing symbols. You notice, where once stood carvings of ancient gods, there are now crosses and simple Christian icons. These are no longer just containers of goods. They are vessels of faith. Many amphorae now lie buried in graves, some still carrying a faint scent of wine inside, as if offering one final gift to the soul beyond death. The will to endure. Amid the collapsing borders of empire, small pottery hubs emerge again. They no longer serve the emperor's court, but the needs of nearby villages. Oil, wine, spices, grain. These amphorae are now tied to local life, not distant seas. You watch as smoke rises from a narrow alley, from the last surviving kiln. An old craftsman sits there, piecing together fragments of clay with all his strength and skill, perhaps crafting his final amphora. Slowly, the vessel takes shape, silent, yet unyielding. You know that in the coming age, such creations may fade into history. But for this moment, it lives, carrying within it centuries of struggle, faith, and story. You step into the shadowy, stone-walled halls of medieval monasteries and bustling market squares where the amphora's story softens into quiet echoes. The grand maritime trade routes are fractured, cities smaller, and tastes shifted. Yet, amidst these changes, amphorae linger on, not as imperial icons, but as modest relics of a past era, slowly fading in the face of new container technologies. In monastic cellars and noble estates, amphorae remain in use, primarily for local storage and ritual purposes. You walk through a cloister where monks carefully handle the jars, savoring precious wine stored in them for sacramental purposes. These vessels carry liquid sustenance and spiritual significance, bridging continuity from the ancient world to medieval piety. The amphora's link to sacred ceremonies offers it a lifeline beyond commerce. Markets of medieval Europe tell another story. You watch horses and carts ferrying goods from countryside to town across rough roads worn by seasons. Amphorae, though less common, still transport oils, wines, and pickled goods in familiar shapes, but of simpler construction. Their origins vary, some local, others inherited from trade networks, still intact in southern Europe and Mediterranean coastal regions. The jars become regional markers, marking the declining yet persistent flow of trade. You notice a shift in container preferences. Wooden barrels gain dominance, more durable, easier to transport, and less prone to breakage than fragile clay. Barrels become the container of choice for long distances and rougher roads. Amphorae retreat to niche roles, used where tradition or practical circumstances prevail, often in sheltered or religious contexts. In some towns, amphora shards appear in kitchen middens, broken pottery discarded after wear. Their presence speaks to domestic life, where amphorae were everyday objects, perhaps less glamorous, but no less essential. These fragments represent the quiet persistence of tradition in a world increasingly dominated by new materials. You're struck by the variability of amphora styles during this period. Local potters produce vessels reflecting diverse regional influences, shapes and decoration fluctuating according to available materials, demand, and cultural tastes. These vessels carry hints of past glory alongside signs of pragmatic adaptation. Scholars classify these jars cautiously, aware that regional ceramic traditions survived despite shrinking trade. Trade persists, but at diminished scale and complexity. You envision smaller coastal ports exchanging goods carefully, where amphorae still occasionally carry wine and oil, especially in Mediterranean areas. Inland trade relies more on barrels and skins, while amphorae linger in more sheltered maritime economies. The shift reflects broader geopolitical fragmentation and economic recalibration characteristic of medieval Europe. Amphorae also appear in archaeological finds linked to pilgrimage routes and monasteries, continuing their role in religious life. Wine carried in clay jars sustains both spiritual and communal gatherings, their vessels protecting precious cargo in a world less stable than before. This connection underscores wine's symbolic and practical importance across centuries. You observe an intriguing juxtaposition. As amphorae recede from grand maritime trade, their essence persists in ritual, local markets, and as a cultural memory. The jars become symbols of heritage, passed down through generations, cherished for their simplicity and connection to the sacred. Interestingly, some amphorae feature simplified stamps or maker's marks, showing continuity of artisan pride and origin authentication despite reduced scale. These marks hint at efforts to maintain product quality and consumer trust, even as markets shrink and social structures evolve. The decline of amphorae also mirrors broader shifts in medieval economics. The rise of localized production, changes in transportation modes, and cultural transformation. This era is less a sudden collapse and more a gradual adaptation, where amphorae retreat but do not vanish entirely, their legacy woven into fabric of daily life. As you leave the bustling market square, you carry forward the thought that amphorae witnessed transformation, shrinking from imperial emblems to humble vessels, but never losing their essence. They embody resilience and continuity amid change, testaments to human adaptability in shifting times. Their story, during the medieval centuries, reminds you that trade and culture are always evolving, shaped by necessity and innovation, but anchored in traditions. Amphorae quietly serve as touchstones, carrying forward the ancient bonds between earth, craft, and liquid life. Even as the world around them changes fundamentally, you find yourself diving into the depths of a turquoise sea, equipped with modern gear, but driven by ancient curiosity. Sunlight filters through the water, illuminating a ghostly shipwreck resting on the ocean floor, a silent tomb of commerce, long buried beneath waves. Your eyes scan the scattered amphorae, countless ceramic jars scattered like forgotten fossils, each one a clue to the bustling trade that thrived in antiquity. Underwater exploration has revealed astonishing archaeological treasures. You imagine divers carefully cataloging amphorae that have survived millennia, their shapes and stamps remarkably intact despite the crushing pressures of the deep. These submerged archives provide unparalleled insight into ancient maritime trade, preserving information lost to time and land-based decay. Shipwrecks often reveal crates packed with amphorae lined in neat rows, painstakingly stacked by sailors to maximize cargo and minimize damage. You can almost hear the creaking timbers and waves slapping ships swept into storms, the desperate cries of crews as fragile jars smashed and spilled their liquid cargo into the cold sea. Each amphora lost tells a story of risk and reward, an attempt to conquer nature's unpredictability. The preservation beneath the waves offers a unique window into ancient economies. Unearthed amphorae indicate trade links that crisscross continents, from the wine producers of Greece and Rome to consumers in far-flung ports of Egypt, France, and Spain. This underwater mapping uncovers not just routes, but cultural connections and economic interdependence sustained by these vessels. One striking detail: the resin sealing inside many amphorae survives underwater, preserving traces of pine and pitch scents, faint but evocative. Chemical analysis of residues helps reconstruct ancient recipes and winemaking practices, almost like tasting the past through scientific time travel. These sensory details invite you to imagine sailors drinking from these jars after long voyages, savoring preserved flavors amidst salty air and sea spray. The shipwrecks themselves reveal insights into ancient shipbuilding and cargo logistics. The necessity of fitting hundreds of amphorae demanded clever ship designs and loading strategies. You visualize captains balancing ceramic loads carefully, navigating treacherous waters with skill passed down through generations. This maritime mastery underpinned the success of amphora trade for centuries. Archaeologists debate whether amphorae were specially packed for stability or if standard production molds inadvertently dictated stacking patterns. Either way, amphorae functioned as the real containers of antiquity, central to a commercial revolution under the sails of merchant ships. The seafloor's amphorae cemetery is a vivid testament to human commerce's reach and vulnerability. Many amphorae were regional. Distinct shapes and stampings indicate origins from diverse workshops spread along Mediterranean coasts. Examining these jars reveals a mosaic of cultural identities tied by trade, where pottery styles served not only functional but communicative roles in signifying provenance and quality. You learn of daring recoveries. Modern divers salvaging amphorae and reconstructing their contents, contributing to museums and research centers worldwide. Each recovered jar enriches knowledge of ancient consumption patterns, trade fluctuations, and social customs. The amphora thus continues to connect past and present, its ceramic voice echoing through centuries. Remarkably, some shipwrecks contain amphorae layered with marine life, shells, and coral. Nature reclaiming human artifacts, weaving a living tapestry atop ancient trade relics. This intertwining of human and natural history highlights the amphora's enduring physical and symbolic presence. The discoveries sparked debates about maritime hazards, piracy, and ancient insurance. Was amphora loss accepted as business risk, or did merchants devise early forms of compensation? These questions deepen understanding of ancient economic frameworks and the resilience required to maintain vast trade networks. Your dive among these sunken amphorae is a journey through time and tide, a vivid immersion into the ancient Mediterranean's heart. These clay vessels, silent yet eloquent, tell of human ambition, vulnerability, and creativity bound by earth and sea. Rising to the surface, you carry with you the image of amphorae, scattered like stars beneath waves. Fragile, enduring, and eternally part of the vast liquid history that connects civilizations. The ocean's depths guard their secrets, but thanks to modern explorers, the amphora's story continues to flow, bridging millennia with liquid memory and ceramic grace. You enter a dimly lit research room stacked with amphora fragments and whitewashed notes, where scholars pore over shards like detectives piecing together lost civilizations. This is amphora math, the careful science of measuring, counting, and analyzing pottery remains to reconstruct the volume and scope of ancient trade. Every broken rim and embossed stamp becomes a critical data point in tracing economic webs spanning continents. Archaeologists use amphora sherds to estimate trade volumes by calculating the number of jars produced and consumed in regions or cities. You observe how they piece together amphora shapes from scattered fragments, sometimes reconstructing entire jars to understand capacity, origin, and use. These reconstructions illuminate not only the quantity of wine moved, but also patterns in consumption and cultural preferences. The process is intricate. From fragmented clay, researchers deduce standardized jar sizes, often around 26 to 40 liters, and calculate total trade volume by multiplying estimated amphora counts. You imagine the mathematical challenges involved in scaling fragment counts to represent entire trade fleets or markets. This formulaic approach transforms broken pottery into quantitative insight. You also see the role of stamps and inscriptions in this amphora arithmetic. Marks indicating producers, shipment dates, or tax payment help define trade routes, identifying where amphorae were made and where they were used. These stamps become variables in economic equations, linking archaeological finds to historical records. Quantitative analysis reveals fluctuating trade intensity. You note how amphora counts spike in archaeological layers corresponding to prosperity and decline during economic downturns. These patterns speak volumes about ancient market dynamics, booms, busts, and long-term trends otherwise invisible. Scholars debate margin of error in these calculations due to fragment loss, reuse of amphora shards in construction, and uneven preservation in sites. Despite uncertainties, amphora math offers a remarkably detailed picture of ancient economic activity, comparable in insight to modern trade statistics. One surprising finding is the scale of ancient Mediterranean trade. Some ports reveal amphora concentrations, suggesting millions of jars circulated annually, a testament to the organizational sophistication of ancient economies. You imagine the logistics required: potters crafting hundreds daily, merchants coordinating shipments, sailors braving sea hazards, all choreographed with precision. You consider how these numbers connect to broader questions. How much wine did Rome consume? How significant was amphora trade in economic life compared to other goods? Amphora math quantifies these issues, bringing clarity to otherwise abstract histories. Beyond volume, amphora counts uncover consumption habits and social norms. For example, urban centers show denser amphora deposits than rural areas, suggesting concentrated wine use in cities. Seasonal fluctuations also appear, linked to harvest and festival cycles. These data points enrich understanding beyond what texts alone can provide. Oddly, the sheer number of amphora fragments also illuminates ancient recycling practices. Broken shards often replaced raw materials in new construction, road foundations, or pottery production. This circular use complicates volume estimates, but reveals fascinating resourcefulness in managing waste. You observe interdisciplinary methods, blending archaeology, chemistry, and statistics to enhance amphora research. Advances in technology, like GIS mapping and digital modeling, refine amphora math, ensuring sharper, more precise reconstructions of ancient economies. Despite progress, debates continue over amphora trade scale and integration. Was Mediterranean commerce predominantly local or a pan-regional system? How centralized was production? Amphora math fuels these discussions by providing empirical evidence, bridging gap between historical narrative and scientific data. You feel part of a grand tradition of inquiry. Ancient amphorae, teaching modern scholars how humans crafted complex economic systems using limited technology. Their ceramic fragments become time machines, decoding the flow of goods, people, and cultures centuries past. Finally, you reflect on the human stories behind these numbers. Potters shaping vessels, merchants calculating risks, sailors navigating treacherous seas, consumers savoring wine. Amphora math, though numerical, connects deeply to lived experience and the enduring quest to understand civilization's pulse through broken clay. As you close the worn notebook, filled with amphora fragments and equations, you appreciate how the silent shards tell a vibrant story of trade, culture, innovation, and resilience, etched in ceramic footprints tracing humanity's oldest commercial journeys. You step back and survey the panorama of amphora legacy, a story not confined to dusty museums or submerged wrecks, but flowing vibrant into the world of today. From the clay jars of antiquity springs a lineage of wine containers and trade logistics that connect past to present, tracing how civilizations evolved their methods to nurture, transport, and celebrate wine. Modern wine bottles, you realize, owe a profound debt to the humble amphora. Before glass bottles, corks, and labels, amphorae set the standard for liquid storage and shipment, shaping not only physical designs, but culturally embedded practices. This ceramic predecessor established rhythms of production and trade that still influence contemporary winemaking and distribution. You consider the shape symmetry mirrored in today's bottles. The slender neck, the broader belly designed for optimal storage, transport, and pouring grace. Even the idea of standardized sizes and sealed closures finds an ancient echo in amphora production, where potters adhered to remarkably consistent measures. The amphora's pointed base may be gone, but its legacy endures in the glass wine bottleneck's elegant form. Branding, too, traces back to ancient amphora marking practices. Labels and cork stamps are modern iterations of potters' and merchants' marks. Just as amphora stamps assured authenticity and origin, today's labels guarantee provenance, quality, and identity. The ancient battle against forgery lingers in modern trademark wars, both fought over the sanctity of brand and consumer trust. The infrastructure of trade logistics also owes much to amphora innovations. The idea of modular, stackable units designed to maximize cargo space echoes amphora packing strategies. Shipping containers, pallets, and standardized packaging evolved in spirit from these ancient ceramics, reflecting humanity's enduring quest for efficiency and reliability in commerce. Even contemporary archaeologists and vintners collaborate to revive amphora aging techniques. Some modern winemakers embrace clay fermentation and storage, seeking the distinct flavor profiles and heritage authenticity amphorae impart. This revival speaks to a full circle moment where past knowledge reinvigorates present crafts. Wine culture, with its deep social rituals surrounding consumption, continues to echo amphora traditions. The sharing of wine in social and religious contexts reflects a continuum, where the vessel enhances experience. Be it clay jar, glass bottle, or crystal goblet, the container frames the cultural dance of connection, celebration, and memory. You explore how amphora legacy permeates global wine markets. Regional varieties carefully bottled, marketed, and celebrated today stand on foundations rooted in ancient territorial pride and production codes. Protected designations of origin and appellations resonate with amphora stamps, serving as early quality certifications. Interestingly, amphora's legacy also influences environmental thinking. Clay's natural porosity, biodegradability, and aesthetic appeal inspire sustainable packaging trends. Compared to synthetic materials, amphora's simplicity and eco-friendliness remind us of alternatives rooted in tradition and natural resources. The amphora's place in museums, excavation sites, and collections worldwide continues to educate, inspire, and captivate. Their forms serve as tangible links to history, allowing people to touch clay, to smell the resin traces, and to imagine ancient hands shaping trade's foundation. This physical legacy transcends time, bridging curiosity and scholarship. Your reflections lead you to complexities behind this legacy. The gap between past and present, that packaging, technology, and consumption bridge. Modern containers may look different, but carry the same human essence to safeguard precious contents, convey identity, and facilitate exchange. Amphorae were pioneers, setting the template for how societies handle goods vital to culture and economy. You end your journey by imagining the amphora as a silent teacher. Its form, stamps, and uses a curriculum in human ingenuity, commerce, and connection. The vessels carried wine and more, stories, alliances, faith, and identity across centuries, continents, and cultures. The amphora's legacy is alive in every bottle uncorked, every label read, and every glass shared. The clay jar may be ancient, but its impact remains timeless, reminding us that behind every sip of wine lies an enduring tale of earth, fire, craftsmanship, and trade. What began in mud and flame continues to flow in vineyards, cellars, and celebrations today. You step into a quiet museum hall where amphorae rest silently on softly lit pedestals, still, serene, eternal. The clatter of ancient marketplaces and the spray of ocean waves are long gone. What remains is a gentle echo, a whisper carried in ceramic shadows, connecting you intimately to a journey that began thousands of years ago. Here you stand, among the amphorae's final resting places, transformed from vessels of commerce to vessels of memory. Despite their silence, these objects pulse with life, carrying layered stories of social networks, cultural exchange, and human ambition. Preserved, not in documents or words, but in clay, forged by earth, water, and fire. You sense the weight and fragility of these jars. Symbols of civilizations built on fragile trusts, daring voyages, and earthly hands shaping the future. Each amphora reflects an era's art, economy, politics, and daily life, becoming both artifact and storyteller, holding whispers from distant ports to ancient symposiums. In these sacred halls, the amphora transitions from functionality to art. Some feature painted myths, others bear stamps of emperors or potters, making them testaments to aesthetic and practical achievements alike. You observe how amphorae embody the human desire to record, communicate, and claim identity through craft and commerce. The amphorae's journey culminates in this peaceful repose, inviting contemplation. You imagine the hands that made them, the potters smoothing wet clay, the sailors fastening their precious cargo to trembling ships, the drinkers raising cups in ritual and celebration. These jars are the silent witnesses to human triumph and fragility. The amphora's legacy reaches further, influencing scholars who tirelessly piece together broken shards to reconstruct ancient trade networks and social dynamics. Through residue analysis, chemical testing, and archaeological stratigraphy, amphorae speak anew, whispering their secrets to those who listen closely. This room reminds you that amphorae were never just containers. They were connectors, binding producers with consumers, cultures with economies, earth with sea. Beneath their hardened surfaces lies a shared human story, a story spanning millennia, continents, and languages through the simple act of sharing wine. The amphora's tale is one of echoes and endurance, reminding you that trade and culture are intertwined forces shaping human history. These clay vessels, humble yet monumental, are bridges between ages, past, present, and future, intertwined within their curves. You close your eyes and imagine the soft tap of rain on sun-baked clay, the murmur of sea winds carrying ancient merchants' prayers, and the quiet glow of fires sealing jars with resin. This sensory world transports you beyond time, a gentle farewell to amphorae and their steadfast role in shaping civilization. The amphora, once laden with precious wine and hope, now rests among explorers, scholars, and dreamers, keeping alive a legacy echoed in every bottle uncorked and every shared cup. They teach patience, innovation, and the beauty of connecting worlds, lessons as vital today as in ancient seas. With these thoughts in mind, you dim the lights and lean back, letting the soft hum of the evening wash over you. The amphora's story slows, settles, a ceramic lullaby, cradling you in history's embrace, tender and enduring. You lean back, letting your mind drift slowly from the clatter of ancient marketplaces and the rush of seafaring voyages to a serene evening where history becomes a soft murmur. The amphorae, those once bustling vessels of trade and culture, now rest quietly, their shapes softened by time and memory. Imagine the sun setting over a calm Mediterranean shore, waves gently lapping, a light breeze carrying the faint scent of wild herbs and crushed grape leaves. Feel the warmth of sun-baked clay beneath your fingertips, rough yet comforting, as if the earth itself is whispering stories of distant lands and shared human dreams. The deep resonance of fire used to mold these jars echoes softly, like a heartbeat steady across centuries. You hear the faint hum of potters' wheels spinning, the gentle voices of merchants negotiating under the shade of olive trees, the laughter of friends sharing wine under starlit skies. Let your breath slow as you picture fragile amphorae lined up in silent rows, steeped in resin, guarding the nectar of ancient vineyards, waiting to pour forth their liquid history. Each jar carries not just wine, but the hopes, fears, and connections of countless lives across time. Their sound is the quiet clink of possibility, the muted song of civilization's first trade routes. As night wraps its velvet cloak around this journey, settle into the comfort of continuity. These clay vessels, born of mud and fire, are timeless bridges, ancient yet present, between earth and sea, past and future. They remind you that every sip you take is a toast to human craft, curiosity, and courage. Now, whispering softly, as if telling a secret to the darkness, may these stories seep into your dreams, gentle as a resin scent, steady as a potter's hand. Rest easy, wanderer of time, for the amphora's tale is safely cradled in the quiet pulse of history. Sweet dreams.